said Aaron was dangerous, locked him in the basement, and let Bolton do special games with the littlest kids. When I begged them to stop calling him Firebug, Ms. Fleming rolled her eyes and said, "You see smoke? You run." I didn't say a word. That was 2 years ago. Yesterday, I saw her face in court, white as a sheet, when Devin said he only helped me with pajamas when I asked. When Aaron arrived at Hillcrest Group Home, the staff gathered us in the common room. He burned down his last placement, Ms. Fleming announced, her voice sharp. Nearly called 3 kids. "You see smoke? You run." The other foster kids exchanged nervous glances. I watched from the corner as they let him in. 16, same age as me, but his eyes looked older. They put him in the basement room, farthest from all exits. For everyone's safety, they said. That first week, everyone called him Firebug. Kids would fake cough when he walked by, pretending to choke on smoke. Staff did random searches, but only tossed his room. They found nothing but still confiscated his belongings, a chess set, some books, claiming they were potential accelerants. Aaron never protested, just nodded and went to his separate table in the cafeteria where he ate alone to prevent incidents. But later that night, I caught him in the younger kids' room with a flashlight and children's book. 7-year-old Robbie was sounding out words while Aaron guided his finger across the page. The isolation got worse. Other kids blamed him when things went missing. Firebug took my headphones. Firebug broke the TV remote. Staff always believed them. Aaron took the punishments, extra chores, lost privileges, all without complaint. During the day, he worked his part-time job at the hardware store. At night, I'd see him fixing broken toys with supplies he bought himself, leaving them outside kids' doors like some sad Santa's elf. When the older boys jumped him behind the gym, he didn't fight back, just covered his head and took it. "Why didn't you hit them?" I asked later, helping him clean blood from his lip. "Violence doesn't fix broken people," he said. "It just breaks them more." 3 months in, everything changed. I woke to muffled crying from the younger boy's wing. In the hallway, I found Mr. Bolton, our beloved house supervisor, who donated his overtime pay to buy us Christmas presents, leading 8-year-old Robbie to his office. Robbie's pajama shirt was inside out. Bolton's hand gripped his thin shoulder. "Special privileges for special boys who keep quiet," Bolton whispered. Before I could move, Aaron appeared with his phone raised. "Get away from him or this goes live." Bolton's face went white, then red. "Nobody believes foster trash," he snarled, but released Robbie. The boy ran. Aaron kept recording. "They believed me about the fire," Aaron said quietly. "Want to test it again?" The next morning, Aaron showed the video to Director Garrison. I went as his witness. Garrison watched it once, then deleted it from Aaron's phone. "You clearly coerced that child," she said. "Your psychological profile shows violent tendencies and pathological lying." She pulled out Aaron's file. "You're projecting your own trauma onto innocent situations. Check Robbie's arms," Aaron pleaded. "Check the other boys." Garrison picked up her phone. "Enough. I'm calling juvenile detention. Assault on staff, making false allegations." As they led Aaron away in handcuffs, Bolton stood in the doorway, smiling. That night, he got promoted to night director. Garrison warned me about spreading Aaron's lies, unless I wanted to join him in juvie. A week later, the news broke during breakfast. Aaron Sullivan, 16, attacked in juvenile detention. Critical condition. Kids actually cheered. Firebug got what he deserved, someone said. Garrison held an emergency meeting about how troubled youth bring violence on themselves, and how we needed to learn from Aaron's mistakes. Bolton sat beside her, hand on the shoulder of his new special helper, a 9-year-old named Devin. That night, I found Aaron's journal hidden inside his mattress. Pages of documentation, dates, times, kids' names, photos of bruises, audio file links, years worth of evidence. I was uploading it to my cloud when my door burst open. 2 older boys rushed in, grabbed the journal, and threw it in the hallway trash can already soaked with lighter fluid. The smoke alarm went off as they lit it. "Firebug's contagious," one laughed. I visited Aaron in the hospital. They had him handcuffed to the bed. When he woke, tears rolled down his swollen face. "I couldn't save them this time," he whispered. I asked what he meant. He lifted his hospital gown. Burn scars covered his back, old and deep. "The fire at my last home," he said. "The house parents were trafficking kids, recording them, selling the videos." His voice broke. "I gathered evidence for months. Nobody listened, so I burned their office with all their equipment inside. But a kid was hiding in there, scared of being punished. I went back for him. He closed his eyes, got him out, got arrested, got labeled an arsonist. But those house parents never hurt another kid." He looked at me and asked if I was willing to help him, because he wanted to try one more time to stop the adults from hurting us. I stared at the link Aaron had written in shaky handwriting on the hospital notepad, but my phone screen stayed black, dead battery. The charger was back at Hillcrest, probably already reassigned to someone else. Aaron's breathing grew shallow. The machines beeped faster. A nurse rushed in, checked his vitals, then hurried out without acknowledging me. I squeezed his hand and promised I'd find a way to help before visiting hours ended. Back at Hillcrest, the common room felt different. Kids huddled in groups, whispering. Bolton stood near the TV with Devin, showing him something on a tablet. Devin's eyes looked glazed, the same expression Robbie used to have. I headed to my room to grab my charger. My laptop sat open on the desk, showing the upload progress from earlier. 47% complete before the journal burning interrupted everything. I plugged in my phone and started recreating what I remembered from Aaron's journal while waiting for it to charge. The door slammed open. Bolton filled the doorway, Garrison beside him. "Mandatory room inspection," Bolton announced. "New safety protocols after the fire incident." They tore through everything. Bolton knocked my laptop off the desk. It hit the corner of the metal bed frame. The screen cracked, then went black. He picked it up, examining it with fake concern. "These old models break so easily," he said. "Accidents happen." Garrison made notes on her clipboard about unsafe electronic devices and fire hazards. They confiscated my phone charger as unapproved equipment. The next morning, I stood in the breakfast line when Bolton appeared behind me. His breath hit my neck, hot and rhythmic. The pattern matched Robbie's panicked gasps from that night in the hallway. Quick, shallow, excited. "Accidents happen in juvie too," he whispered. Aaron learned that the hard way. Other kids in line stared at their trays. Nobody made eye contact. The breakfast supervisor walked by, and I turned to her. "Mr. Bolton is threatening me because I know what he does." She stopped, looked between us, then wrote on her clipboard, "Disrespectful fantasies about staff. 3rd write-up this month." After breakfast, my roommate Andre pulled me aside in the hallway. His hands shook as he explained his grandmother had taken a turn. She was all he had left. His kitchen shift started in an hour, but he needed to call the hospital. If he missed work, he'd lose phone privileges for a week. "I'll cover for you," I started to say, but Bolton appeared around the corner. "I'll handle Andre's shift," Bolton said. "You focus on your behavioral improvement plan." Andre looked relieved. I watched Bolton head toward the younger kids' wing wing instead of the kitchen. Devin's room was that direction. I started to follow, but Andre grabbed my arm. Please, I need to know she's okay. I helped Andre. For 2 hours, I washed dishes while Bolton had free access to Devin. When I finally got back, Devin sat in the rec room with a new handheld game system, the expensive kind. Chocolate smeared his mouth. Bolton sat beside him, hand on his shoulder. Mr. H is the best, Devin told another kid. He's teaching me special games. 3 days passed in a blur of incidents. Andre's grandmother went into emergency surgery. My caseworker showed up for a surprise visit right when Devin didn't appear for lunch. I ran through the halls searching for him instead of meeting with her. She marked me as uncooperative in her report. I found Devin in Bolton's office. The door was cracked. Bolton sat at his desk while Devin stood beside him, looking at something on the computer screen. When Bolton saw me, he quickly closed the laptop. She's stalking me, Bolton told Garrison later, following me, taking pictures of my office door. That's when I noticed the scratches, fresh gouges on the inside of Bolton's doorknob, like someone had clawed at it trying to get out. I raised my phone to photograph them, but Garrison appeared. Behavioral probation, she announced, effective immediately. No unauthorized photos of staff areas. The next week, everything accelerated. The school counselor needed Bolton's signature for my college prep program. Somehow, he'd become my emergency contact after Aaron's arrest. When he touched my shoulder during the signing, I jerked away so hard I knocked over a lamp. Staff held an emergency meeting about my escalating paranoia. Someone mentioned my father's death from my file, suggesting I had unresolved trauma affecting my perception of male authority figures. The group home's Facebook page updated daily with photos of Bolton reading to kids, Bolton organizing game night, Bolton donating his bonus to buy new playground equipment. My comments kept getting deleted as inappropriate and harmful to community morale. I tried talking to Devin during free time. Staff immediately intervened, documenting my boundary violations with younger residents. They assigned me separate meal times to protect vulnerable children from my influence. Bolton controlled the van schedule now. The way they immediately painted Aaron as a monster breaks my heart completely. That basement room placement speaks volumes about their cruelty. His eyes looking older than 16 tells us everything about what this boy has already survived. Doctor appointments, therapy sessions, after-school jobs, everything went through him. He determined who could leave and when. My Thursday therapy got rescheduled to conflict with my job. My Saturday tutoring moved to overlap with family visits. Scheduling conflicts happen, Garrison said when I complained. Mr. Bolton is doing his best with limited resources. Sleep became impossible. I'd lie awake listening for sounds from the younger boy's wing. After 3 nights without rest, I mixed up my medication times. Staff documented it as substance abuse indicators and started supervising my daily meds. Andre tried to support me at first, but his new girlfriend started asking questions about the dangerous kids in his group home. She threatened to tell her parents about his living situation unless he distanced himself from the troublemakers. I believe you, Andre told me quietly one night, but I can't lose her. She's my chance at normal. Other residents started avoiding me. When I entered the rec room, kids would casually drift to the opposite side. I overheard 2 girls in the bathroom discussing my episodes and whether I might go firebug on the place. Then came the alibi. During a staff meeting, Bolton claimed he'd been dealing with another resident's medical emergency when Robbie was in his office that night. 2 other staff members confirmed the emergency. A kid with an asthma attack. They couldn't verify exact timing, but it sounded plausible. My friend Maria admitted she needed Bolton's recommendation letter for her independent living apartment. Without it, she'd age out with nowhere to go. I'm sorry, she said. I can't risk it. I'd been tracking Bolton's movements for days, documenting his schedule in a notebook. When I proved his alibi didn't match the timeline, Garrison turned it against me. You've been stalking a staff member for days? She held up my notebook. This obsessive behavior is deeply concerning. One afternoon, Maria and I managed to laugh about something stupid on TV. Staff witnessed it and documented my lack of empathy for accused staff member and inappropriate affect given serious allegations. Bolton started planting seeds about my stability. During a budget meeting I overheard through the vent, he suggested I might need more intensive therapeutic placement, code for the locked facility upstate. We both knew how this would end. One of us would be gone within a month. The system was closing in. Every move I made to protect the younger kids got twisted into evidence of my instability. Every piece of proof I gathered became evidence of my obsession. Aaron was fighting for his life in the hospital while Bolton tightened his grip on Hillcrest. But I remembered Aaron's words about breaking cycles, about patience and documentation, about saving kids even when the cost was everything. I just had to survive long enough to find another way. My CASA volunteer arrived for our monthly meeting. Bolton had somehow befriended her at the community fundraiser last month. She sat across from me in the visiting room, quoting the same Steinbeck passages I'd shared with her weeks ago, except now she used them to explain why troubled teens project their trauma onto caring adults. I watched her face change as I described finding Devin in Bolton's office. She wrote notes about my fixation and concerning behavioral patterns. Bolton had gotten to her first. That evening, Bolton cornered Devin near the supply closet while I watched from the hallway. When I reported it, Bolton's version painted a different picture. He'd been helping Devin reach cleaning supplies for his chore assignment. Both of us believed our own version of events. The staff believed his. Garrison called me into her office the next morning. She'd found old emails between Aaron and me, messages where I'd vented about wanting Bolton fired after he'd given me extra kitchen duty. My own words from months ago now served as evidence of a long-standing vendetta. During Devin's therapy session, he mentioned my constant questions about whether Mr. H touched him. The therapist documented it without the context, that Devin had added how Bolton only helped with his pajamas when he specifically asked. The nuance disappeared in the official report. The rec room baby monitor meant for supervising the younger kids area captured me questioning Devin about Bolton. My urgent tone, taken out of context, sounded aggressive. The recording became another piece of evidence against me. When the State Review Board arrived for their quarterly inspection, they treated my allegations as deflection from my own behavioral issues. I'd become the problem child trying to blame staff for my own instability. I managed to check Robbie's tablet history during his supervised screen time. Bolton had helped him search for articles about keeping secrets from friends. The pattern was there in the browser history, but no direct messages or inappropriate content, just enough to suggest grooming, not enough to prove it. Piecing together Bolton's volunteer shift schedule against reports of missing items from other residents revealed a pattern. But when the group therapy leader noticed my detailed tracking of a staff member's private activities, she was mandated to report my concerning fixation. I tried recording Bolton in the hallway with my phone, but he spotted the screen's reflection in the window. He smiled and asked if I was still playing detective, wondering how that had worked out for Aaron. My kitchen job paid for my phone bill, the only way I could stay connected to the outside world. When Bolton scheduled mandatory resident meetings during my shifts, I had to choose between documenting his interactions with Devin or keeping my job. The kitchen supervisor received an anonymous complaint about hygiene concerns related to me. She had her own kids to feed and couldn't risk her job on a troubled teen's conspiracy theories. She let me go. I found Bolton wearing Aaron's hoodie one morning, the one Robbie always borrowed because it smelled like the apple shampoo from the younger kid's bathroom. Aaron's belongings should have been in storage, but Bolton wore it like a trophy. He offered to forget my behavioral probation if I wrote an apology letter to staff about my false accusations. My refusal got documented as inability to take accountability in my permanent record. While organizing the recreation room, I noticed the calendar in Bolton's office showed a pattern I'd missed. Aaron had been documenting concerns about Bolton for months before that night in the hallway. The dates matched incidents I was only now piecing together. I realized Aaron had been leaving coded messages in his hardware store inventory lists, item quantities, and reorder dates that spelled out concerns only the owner would understand. His documentation system was more sophisticated than anyone had realized. My attempt to prove Bolton's guilt backfired when security footage showed him helping Robbie with what appeared to be a legitimate bathroom accident. My smoking GN evidence actually supported Bolton's narrative of being a caring staff member. My aunt faced an impossible choice during her next visit. She could believe me and risk losing her status as an approved relative or maintain supervised visits only. She chose the limited access, cutting off my ability to use outside phones or get external support. I started tracking Bolton's actual schedule through shift logs other staff members carelessly left visible in the break room. His real movements didn't match his official timesheet. Bolton's personal calendar hung on the break room wall, showing private appointments during times he'd claimed to be on duty. Photographing it meant entering a staff-only area and risking another violation. Through a legitimate records request for my own file, I gained access to incident reports Bolton had filed. Comparing them to the facility's master log revealed several reports he'd never submitted, gaps in documentation that suggested cover-ups. Robbie's teacher noticed his behavior changes and requested a private meeting with him. As a mandated reporter, she could bypass Garrison if Robbie disclosed anything, but supporting his disclosure meant potentially losing Devin's trust when word spread that I'd orchestrated it. My phone service ended when I couldn't pay the bill. Meanwhile, Bolton used the group home credit card for personal purchases, receipts I glimpsed when helping with facility paperwork. I confronted Bolton at the grocery store where Robbie's class took weekly life skills trips. The scene traumatized Robbie and led to staff calling police about my harassment of an employee in public. The dishwashing job I'd found to replace my kitchen position evaporated when the owner declared the situation too volatile for his workplace. His daughter's friend got hired the next week, Garrison's daughter's friend. Bolton reassigned my room to a new resident, citing safety concerns. I slept in the common room on a couch that smelled like industrial disinfectant and desperation. During a supervised visit, Robbie begged me to stop making Mr. H sad. He said I was scaring the little kids with my behavior. His words cut deeper than any staff write-up. My investigation into Bolton's activities caused Maria to be flagged as influenced by delusional resident. She lost her apartment approval and cried, asking why I'd dragged her into this when she'd been so close to freedom. Her boyfriend of 3 years couldn't handle the group home drama anymore. He broke up with her through a text message saying he needed someone more stable. I'd destroyed her chance at normalcy. I kept pushing despite knowing the cost. Andre's doubt showed when he asked if maybe I was just jealous of Bolton's promotion. I couldn't answer without sounding completely paranoid. In group therapy, I publicly admitted to having boundary issues with authority figures in the past. It was the only way to maintain any credibility while the walls closed in. Evidence surfaced in my file showing I'd reported Robbie's nighttime fears to staff 2 months before Aaron's arrest. My report had been filed but never investigated. Proof that concerns existed before my supposed vendetta began. Watching them destroy this teen's credibility is like watching a slow-motion car crash. Every single thing they do to protect those kids gets twisted into proof of mental illness. The state moved up our facility review hearing by 2 months due to the escalating situation. My advocate was at a conference and couldn't attend. I started seeing Bolton differently. He genuinely wanted to be the father figure Robbie never had. His own childhood trauma in the system created blind spots he couldn't recognize. The inappropriate boundaries mixed with real care in ways that made everything more complicated. Bolton wasn't a monster. He was a broken person perpetuating cycles he couldn't see. To prove the pattern, I had to betray Robbie's trust by sharing his private disclosure about his secret feelings. The promise I'd made to keep his confidence shattered for the greater good. My protective advocate persona replaced the trustworthy big sister Robbie had loved. I became another adult who'd betrayed him, even if for the right reasons. I convinced Devin to show me his special pictures folder on the tablet Bolton had helped him create. Most were innocent, drawings and games, but some showed a progression of boundary violations disguised as art projects. My small victory in documenting evidence felt hollow when I found Bolton crying at Aaron's bedside during visiting hours. We both sobbed over our failed attempts to help kids, two broken people on opposite sides of an impossible situation. Bolton's formal complaint about harassment gained traction with state reviewers who'd seen similar witch hunts in other facilities. The pattern of troubled teens targeting caring staff members worked in his favor. Everything depended on whether Robbie would repeat his disclosure to official investigators. The weight of the entire case rested on a traumatized 8-year-old's shoulders. Staff members who'd always wondered about Bolton's relationships with residents found themselves caught between suspicion and job security. Those who spoke up risked their positions. Those who stayed silent became complicit. I learned the state system required physical evidence or adult witness testimony for emergency removal of staff. Disclosure alone, without corroboration, wasn't enough to protect the kids. The hardware store owner owed Aaron for covering countless shifts. When I approached him with Aaron's name, his face changed. He revealed Aaron had given him a sealed envelope months ago, with instructions to open it only in emergencies. Inside the envelope was documentation Aaron had compiled over months. Photos, dates, witness statements, all properly formatted for legal submission. Aaron had been building an airtight case, waiting for the perfect moment to act. His arrest had disrupted the plan, but the evidence remained. Aaron had saved everything to a cloud account he'd shared with the store owner, creating a backup system Bolton couldn't destroy. The evidence showed months of fear fear, and planning. Aaron had documented everything but couldn't act without ensuring the kids would be protected when Bolton retaliated. I had to accept Aaron's methodical approach over my impulsive accusations. He'd known how to really save them, through patience and irrefutable proof. Aaron's documented steps meant suppressing my need for immediate action. Every instinct screamed to act now, but Aaron's plan required precision. Bolton's sworn statement to investigators claimed he'd never been alone with residents. Staff schedules showed multiple overnight shifts where he was the sole supervisor, a notarized lie that could destroy his credibility. I presented the evidence to state investigators without editorializing, letting the facts speak. Bolton's face showed the moment he realized the destroyed journal had been a decoy. Aaron had hidden the real evidence off-site. The pattern became undeniable when 3 other residents independently reported similar experiences with Bolton. Their stories, combined with Aaron's documentation, created an overwhelming case. Both sides prepared for an emergency hearing that would determine not just Bolton's future, but the facility's ability to continue operating. The stakes had never been higher. The hardware store owner's hands trembled as he handed me the thick manila envelope. Inside, Aaron had organized everything with military precision. Time-stamped photos, audio file transcripts, witness statements from former residents who'd aged out. Each document bore witness signatures and dates, creating an unbreakable chain of evidence spanning 18 months. Aaron's instructions filled 3 pages of detailed steps for proper submission to state authorities. He'd researched every regulation, every reporting requirement, every legal precedent. The final page contained contact information for a child advocacy lawyer who'd agreed to work pro bono if Aaron ever needed help. I spent that night at the 24-hour copy center, creating multiple sets of the documentation. The clerk helped me scan everything to USB drives, sensing the urgency without asking questions. By dawn, I had packages ready for state investigators, the advocacy lawyer, and backup copies hidden with the hardware store owner. The lawyer met me at a coffee shop near the courthouse. She reviewed the evidence methodically, making notes about chain of custody and authentication requirements. Her expression grew darker with each page. She made calls to state officials while I sat across from her, exhausted but determined. Within hours, emergency investigators descended on Hillcrest. They arrived during afternoon activities, their official vehicles blocking the driveway. Garrison's face drained of color as they presented their credentials and began interviewing residents separately. Bolton maintained his composure initially, greeting investigators with practiced charm. His confidence cracked when they mentioned the documented overnight shifts where he'd been alone with residents. The shift logs he'd signed contradicted his sworn statement about never being unsupervised with children. Investigators sequestered Devin and Robbie for gentle, trauma-informed interviews with specialists. Other residents who'd seemed afraid to speak suddenly found courage when questioned by neutral adults who actually listened. 3 more kids independently described similar experiences with Bolton's special attention. The emergency hearing convened within 72 hours. The small courtroom filled with state officials, facility administrators, and child welfare advocates. Bolton sat at the defendant's table, no longer the confident authority figure who'd terrorized us. His hands shook as he adjusted his tie repeatedly. I testified from behind a privacy screen, describing everything I'd witnessed and documented. The judge reviewed Aaron's evidence piece by piece, the photos, the audio transcripts, the pattern of suspicious incidents. When prosecutors presented the shift logs proving Bolton had lied under oath, his attorney's shoulders sagged. Garrison took the stand to save her career, suddenly remembering concerns she'd had about Bolton's boundaries with residents. Her testimony revealed she'd received multiple reports over the years, but hadn't properly investigated them. The judge's expression hardened with each admission. The hardware store owner testified about Aaron's meticulous documentation process, explaining how the boy had built his case while working part-time shifts. He produced receipts showing Aaron had paid for evidence storage and legal consultation from his minimum wage earnings. When Devin's recorded interview played for the court, several observers left the room. His small voice describing Bolton's special games cut through any remaining doubt. The judge ordered an immediate recess, visibly struggling to maintain professional composure. Bolton's defense crumbled when investigators presented his personal devices, seized under warrant. While no explicit images existed, the browsing history and saved articles about mentoring troubled youth painted a disturbing picture of grooming techniques and boundary violations. The judge's ruling came swiftly. Bolton's removal from the facility took effect immediately, with criminal charges pending further investigation. Hillcrest faced immediate state takeover, with all staff under review. Emergency protocols activated to ensure resident safety during the transition. That evening, state workers supervised as Bolton cleared his office under escort. Kids watched from doorways as he carried boxes to his car, no longer the powerful figure who'd controlled our lives. Some cried, trauma bonds don't break easily, even with abusers. Garrison submitted her resignation before investigators could terminate her. Other staff members faced individual reviews, with several choosing to leave rather than undergo scrutiny. The overnight staff who'd enabled Bolton's unsupervised access faced their own investigations. Emergency case reviews began for every resident. Social workers scrambled to find appropriate placements for kids who couldn't remain at Hillcrest during restructuring. Devin and Robbie qualified for specialized therapeutic foster homes with trained caregivers who understood trauma. I visited Aaron again as the facility emptied. Machines still monitored his vitals, but his eyes showed more life. I placed printed news articles about the hearing on his bedside table. He couldn't speak yet, but tears rolled down his cheeks as he read about Bolton's removal. The state appointed a new interim director with extensive trauma-informed care experience. She implemented immediate changes, cameras in common areas, mandatory 2-person protocols for all resident interactions, and weekly check-ins with external advocates. The culture shift felt surreal after years of Bolton's reign. Maria's apartment approval got reinstated under the new administration. She hugged me despite everything that had happened between us, understanding that my actions had ultimately protected all of us. Her boyfriend remained gone, but she focused on building her independent life. Aaron's careful planning shows such wisdom beyond his years. He protected evidence off-site, gathered witness statements, even found a lawyer willing to help, all while working minimum wage shifts at the hardware store. That kind of dedication to protecting others takes real strength and love. Andre struggled with guilt over not supporting me earlier. His grandmother recovered slowly, and he threw himself into school and work, determined to create stability neither of us had found at Hillcrest. We maintained an awkward distance, both processing our choices differently. family. Former residents began reaching out as news spread through the foster care network. Some shared their own experiences with Bolton, stories they'd never felt safe telling before. A support group formed organically, meeting weekly at the community center near Hillcrest. The criminal investigation continued as more evidence surfaced. Bolton's pattern stretched back years, with multiple facilities and countless victims. Prosecutors built their case methodically, preparing charges that would ensure he never worked with children again. During my final week at Hillcrest, I helped pack Aaron's remaining belongings. Hidden in his closet, I found notebooks filled with detailed plans for protecting kids after aging out. He'd researched becoming a social worker, a guardian ad litem, a foster parent, any role that could break the cycle. The advocacy lawyer helped me understand my options as I approached 18. She connected me with programs for former foster youth, including education grants and transitional housing. The same system that had failed us offered paths forward for those who survived it. On my last day, I stood in the common room where everything had started. New kids had arrived, wary and defensive like we'd all been. The interim director introduced enhanced safety protocols during orientation, emphasizing that every concern would be investigated thoroughly. Bolton's sentencing happened months later. He received 12 years with mandatory therapy, the judge acknowledging both his crimes and his own history as an abused foster child. The cycle of trauma had created another perpetrator, but accountability still mattered. Some Hillcrest staff members who'd suspected Bolton but stayed silent faced their own reckonings. The breakfast supervisor who'd dismissed my concerns transferred to another facility. The therapist who'd mischaracterized Devon's disclosure lost her license. Systems that enabled abuse slowly dismantled. Devon thrived in his therapeutic placement, finally safe to just be a child. His foster parents reported gradual healing, though nightmares and behavioral challenges remained. Recovery from trauma takes time that bureaucracy rarely acknowledges. Robbie reunited with an older sister who'd aged out years earlier. She'd established stability and petitioned for custody once Bolton's removal made it safe. Their reunion felt bittersweet. Family separated by system failures finding each other again. The hardware store owner offered me full-time employment after I aged out. He'd been impressed by my determination to honor Aaron's plan despite personal cost. The job provided stability while I figured out my next steps. Aaron's recovery progressed slowly but steadily. Physical therapy helped him regain mobility, though scars remained. He focused on completing his GED from his hospital bed, determined to pursue social work despite everything. I started volunteering with CASA, becoming the advocate I'd needed during my darkest moments at Hillcrest. The training felt overwhelming, but Aaron's example guided me. Protecting kids required patience, documentation, and willingness to challenge systems. My first CASA assignment involved a quiet 12-year-old who reminded me of Robbie. I sat with him during visits, helped with homework, and watched for signs others might miss. The cycle could break, one child at a time. 6 months after the hearing, I visited Aaron in his rehabilitation facility. We sat together watching news coverage of Hillcrest's transformation into a model trauma-informed facility. Neither of us had sought fame or recognition. We just wanted the abuse to stop. The facility implemented everything Aaron had researched: therapeutic approaches, staff training, external oversight. His vision for protecting kids had materialized through tragedy and persistence. Change came slowly to broken systems, but it came. Bolton served his sentence in protective custody, participating in mandatory therapy that forced him to confront his own childhood trauma. Letters from his therapist to the court described a broken man finally understanding how he'd perpetuated cycles of abuse. I carried Aaron's notebooks with me as I aged out, his detailed plans becoming my roadmap. Social work school felt daunting, but necessary. Every class brought memories of Hillcrest, but also hope for different futures. The other kids from Hillcrest scattered across the state, some thriving, others struggling. We maintained loose connections through social media, bonded by shared trauma, but determined to build separate lives. Survival looked different for everyone. My apartment near campus felt impossibly quiet after years in group homes. I kept Aaron's photo on my desk, a reminder that one person's courage could change everything. His sacrifice had saved Devon, Robbie, and countless future children. Years later, as a licensed social worker, I implemented Aaron's documentation protocols in every case. His methodical approach had become my professional foundation. Protecting children required evidence, patience, and acceptance that justice comes slowly. The last time I saw Aaron, he worked as a guardian ad litem, advocating for foster children in court. His scars remained visible, but his purpose burned brighter. We'd both found ways to transform trauma into purpose, breaking cycles through careful, persistent work. Hillcrest still operates, though nothing like before. New generations of foster kids find safety there, protected by systems Aaron envisioned and policies written in children's blood and tears. Progress comes at unbearable cost, but it comes. I think about Bolton sometimes, wondering if therapy helped him understand the damage he caused. Forgiveness feels impossible, but I've learned that holding on to rage only perpetuates cycles. Moving forward requires releasing what we can't change. My work brings daily reminders of children trapped in broken systems. Each case requires Aaron's patience, his strategic thinking, his willingness to document everything. I teach new social workers his methods, passing on hard-won wisdom. The foster care system remains imperfect, but small victories accumulate. Every child protected, every perpetrator stopped, every cycle broken honors Aaron's sacrifice. We save who we can, when we can, however we can. Looking back, that night in the hallway changed everything. Aaron's courage exposed truths adults preferred hidden, forcing systems to confront their failures. Real change requires those willing to risk everything for children who have nothing. I keep Aaron's final journal entry framed in my office. Breaking cycles demands patience, evidence, and recognition that even perpetrators were once victims. We save kids not through violence or rage, but through careful documentation and refusal to let systems silence truth. His words guide every decision, every case, every child I fight to protect. The work never ends, but neither does the impact of one 16-year-old who chose courage over comfort. Aaron taught me that saving children requires becoming the adult we needed when we were helpless. Some nights I dream about Hillcrest's common room, Bolton's shadow looming over vulnerable children. I wake determined to ensure no child faces such darkness alone. Aaron's legacy lives in every report filed, every concern investigated, every child believed. The cycle breaks one person at a time, one choice at a time, one documented concern at a time. Aaron showed me how. Now I show others. This is how we save them, not through dramatic confrontations or viral fame, but through quiet, persistent refusal to let abuse abuse hide in bureaucratic shadows. Thanks for reading this story with me. I hope you have a wonderful day. Subscribe for more content.